Hey guys, Darcy here again today, and I got 3 plugins that if you're sitting at home and you're thinking, man, this part of my song needs to be wider, I wish it could just feel like it was surrounding me. I got 3 free plugins to help you with that. They are Isotope's Ozone Imager 2, A1 Stereo, I forget the other part of the name, and by a company called Baby Audio, the Magic Switch. So let's jump into the DAW here and take a look at what I got set up. So I have 3 different audio files that I just kind of grabbed off a splice for scenarios that I want to kind of go over with these plugins. So first, let's take a look at a sound that is a little bit too wide. And before we do that, I'm going to bypass the plugin so that we can hear what it sounds like without anything applied. And that just doesn't want to drag. Okay, let's go. Okay, so we get the sense. It's very narrow sounding. Okay, let's take off the bypass and let's take off these effects. I want to build them back up and explain them. So if we play this, you'll notice that the sound on the polarity will stay really dead center. So let's do it again. See how it's like just stuck there in the center? Okay, so what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to widen that. But if I just grab this width button here, it's not going to widen a signal that's not wide to begin with. So we have to use this stereoize button that will actually make it wider. It will do things to it, all kinds of complicated magic, to essentially make it wider. So I'm going to play it and we're going to see what's going to happen. And you can go up and down how much you want to stereoize. You can look into what that specifically does. Essentially, it's just how much time difference between the 2 sides. I don't tend to mess with it too much, but by all means, let's try it right now. Cool. And we also have these modes here. And clearly one's doing way more widening than the other. So now there's one thing I want to call out about this plugin that I really love and why I use it so much. One, it does a sweet job of making things wider, but it has this ability to show you your polarity or your correlation. And essentially +1 to 0 is good. Anything lower than 0 is bad. Okay, so what does this mean? Okay, so basically issues can arise when it's not above 0. One thing that this helps me with a lot is if something is getting too wide, sometimes it won't be heard on like an iPhone if it's playing a mono signal. Basically any scenario where you have a single speaker that only is going to play that one sound, like a club. So let's play this again and pay attention to this meter as we adjust. So I think it'd be good there, and it's making sure it's over 0. When I pushed it hard there, it felt a little bit like too wide, and even though that might be cool, it's gonna get annoying at some point, and it's not gonna process very well. So now let's jump into the next thing. We're gonna mute that, and we're going to a scenario where it's the opposite. Something is starting off as it's too wide. Okay, so let's play this sound, and then we'll go from there. And I don't know, one thing, this plugin is just not want to drag when I use it. So let's mute this. Okay, so what we're noticing here is that sometimes it goes just below 0. Okay, so we're going to go in the opposite direction. In this scenario, we don't need the stereoize because the signal is already quite stereo. So we're going to make it a little less wide just to tighten it up. Right there would be about good. Now I'm going to show you what happens again if you go too far. Listen to how much like bass is lost and how much other parts of the signal just feel like they're kind of going away. again, it's all a taste, but you want to make sure that you're above that 0 point. That's really the goal here. And maybe you really want it to be super narrow. Maybe that's an artistic choice you're making. All good, whatever you want to do, that's up to you. So next thing we're going to jump into is I have 2 more plugins, okay? So we have one called the Magic Switch, which makes me want to say the Magic Stick every time I see it. I'm also going to turn this plugin off in advance. I went through another run of recording all this stuff, and then I had technical problems. I recorded everything into a plugin that made everything mono, which defeated the purpose of showing you widening. So anyways, we're going to play this one, and you're going to hear what it sounds like, and then we're going to show you what the Magic Switch does. It's pretty cool. It's alright, whatever. We can add some more life to it. This doesn't just go wide. This also does a lot of other things that are like chorus-like effects. And you should also turn your plugin on before you do it. So let me do that again. You get the idea. It's a one-click thing. It gives you what you're looking for. It's an extra sauce. So a scenario that you would want to look at using this within, for instance, could be like maybe you got a cool vibe on a sample, but it needs a little extra sauce. Maybe you have a change up and you just want something that's going to make a little bit difference in that period of time. But you know, it's got a really dope sound. It does make things wide, but in a way that is changing the sound. And I just have to call it out because I've recently been using this and I love it. So let's turn this one off. And we'll go into A1 stereo control. So A1 stereo control is similar to the Ozone imager plugin, but it's one thing is missing is the polarity of the correlation meter. We don't seem to have that here, but we do have some other signals. Some other options to how to process the signal. So a couple of these things are we can do things like swap left and right. Let's say you have a sample that you have, and there's a guitar on one side, piano on the other side, and you literally want to switch them. Dope, you got it. There's some phase stuff, make it mono if you want, but there's a couple that I really want to point out. So the ones that you really should pay attention to are safe bass, which is really dope for if you have a signal that has some low end frequency that you don't want to become wider, you want everything else to become wider, you have the ability to dial that in. Then you also have pan and stereo width. Now, I'm just going to show what these do so that you can get a feel for them. So you see there's a lot of control. I can make it wide, I can make it narrow, I can pan wide, I can pan narrow. That gives you a lot of flexibility. Maybe you have a sample that you got. Apparently everybody's just used samples. So apparently you have a sound that you're working with and most of the signal is on one side. Like let's say someone sent you a track and you know you're mixing it and a lot of it's just on the side and you really want to center it more and keep it wide. You could, you know, try to make it wide and then pan it one way so that, you know, everything comes from the right a little more to the left and then ends up centered. And again, you can save bass while in the process, which is really, really dope. So there's a lot of really good problems you can solve and maybe some creative solutions you can apply. Now there's 2 other settings which you may want to use. I just want to highlight them for people who might want to know that they're here. I haven't really used them much myself, but you can mute the mid frequencies and the side frequencies. Side frequencies being what's really far on the stereo field of left and right in your speakers, and then mid being what's in the center. So we'll click these buttons while we play and you'll hear what it does. So you get the idea. That may work in a specific scenario. It's probably going to be very specific, but hey, if you need this tool for that very specific problem, there you go. So these are 3 different plugins. We have the A1 stereo control, the Magic Switch, And then if I can get it up here, the Ozone Imager 2. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, engage with me with a like, with a comment. Let me know what you want to see. Anyways, y'all, have a good day.